Hello everyone, welcome to the start of our little Excel part of the course. Now to start with, I know that many of you use Excel on a day-to-day business with your work. Some of you don't, doesn't matter. It's also important, I'm not here to teach you spreadsheets as such. What we're going to do with this little bit is I've got various videos for you to go through. I'm deliberately going to do them in short bursts of 10, 15 minutes at a go. Some of you, it'll be a little refresher. Some of you might find some things in here you've never seen before. But it's important we understand exactly how the various functions within Excel work, because we're then going to use very similar ones for Power BI. I'd also like to say the materials I'm using within here are heavily influenced by an Excel course that I went to myself at the end of last year. I teach Excel up to HND level, so secondary university level, and there was a bunch of stuff I picked up that I'd never even heard of before. So even if you think you're absolutely confident with Excel, you might find some of this very useful. Okay, let's get going. All right, so first things first, the cursors. You've got various different Excel cursors, the different pointers at the end of your mouse. The one I'm using here, this version is the Windows version, it's the desktop version. Please, if you've got a Mac or a Windows machine, please try and use the installed application rather than the online one. If you're on a Chromebook, you've only got access to the 365, you'll be able to do most of it. But if possible, let's use the downloaded one. Also, your cursors may look slightly different. For instance, when we use this one here, the one in the middle, the move pointer, I know that on a Mac and on the 365, instead of a black cross with the points at the end, it's a little grabby hand. It does the same idea. Anyway, the important part is there are various different cursors for using. Now, the main one, the one at the top there, the normal pointer. As I say, usually that's just a white cross, and that's just for selecting. So either single cells, ranges, you just hold your mouse down, drag, and it selects. Next one there, we'll just do these three. Next one, the move. So as I say, it may be a white grabby hand, but it works the same way. Once you've selected with your white one, the single cell or range of cells, if you then move your cursor, so it's either at the very bottom or the very top of that range or the single cell, you just hold and you can move this group of cells along. So that's quite useful. The one that is going to save you time and effort and so on, and we'll use it a little bit as we go through, is this fill handle or fill pointer here. Now that one you access, and we'll use it a little bit in a wee minute, but that one you access by hovering over the bottom right-hand corner. I'll show you in a wee minute, but you hover over the bottom right-hand corner of the cell. Once you've got a formula in, you drag it along to the right, the left, it fills all your formulas in for you. I've got a little bit down here. From this point forward, no more keying in references. We're not going to key in C6, E7, whatever. You're going to use your mouse. When we start referencing other sheets, it's called 3D referencing. If you've got a formula on one sheet, you're referencing another one. If you try and key that in, for instance, if I wanted to reference something on this sheet here called conditional formatting, I would have had to key in equals, inverted commas, conditional formatting, close inverted commas, exclamation mark, the cell ref, it would have been a mess. If you just click, Excel does all the hard work for you. You cut right down in your errors. All right, so these are the 3 pointers. We'll use them as we go through, but that's just a little quick overview of what the 3 different pointers or cursors are. All right, so our next sheet we've got here, formulas. As I've put, all Excel formulas have exactly the same structure. They must start with an equals sign. If you don't put an equals to start with, Excel doesn't know it's got something to do. And it just tells it there's a formula coming, get ready for the formula. Then the formula name, might be a wee, a long one, doesn't matter. And then the range which the formula applies to, and that must be within brackets. Excel needs to know where it's going to start adding things up and where it's to stop adding things up, for an example. So it all works exactly the same way. All right, let me show you it in action. I'm going to just zoom in a wee bit there, if I may. So I'm just looking at the other screen. There we go, that's a bit better. So what we've got here, a tiny, tiny little data set. We've got sales from Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen, and so on. We've got a space for totals going in there. We've got different salespeople there. And then we've got a total underneath for each of the areas as well. All right. So following along what I've said here, in order to get the total for Edinburgh, we highlight the cell under there. For those of you who haven't used Excel before, and I know most of you have, but just covering our bases here. Whenever I start typing in this, and I'm just going to put an equals in there, it's also up here. It's also in the formula bar at the top there. For adding up, it's sum. It's nice and easy, SUM. Now, the traditionally, we would always use that in capitals. It still works. If it's not case sensitive, but getting the habit of capitals is a bit neater. You open the brackets as per this. And then instead of keying in B2, B3, whatever, just use your mouse. And if you drag your mouse down, you'll see you get these what's dancing ants around the range that you're about to apply that to. So far we're saying, in order to get the total for Edinburgh, it's equals the sum of, and then that range. That's us. We'll close our bracket because that's the formula finished. And what I'm doing now, you can't see me, but I'm just hitting enter on the keypad or return. There we go. It's worked itself out. Now, this is where that third cursor I was telling you about. We're really happy with that formula. It's worked. And of course, we could repeat it there, 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 there. When we get to Power BI and we've got 20,000 columns or rows, that's a bit tedious. So this is where we use that third cursor. We go to this first one that's worked. You see how the cursor's, I don't know if that shares on the screen. Anyway, white cursor there. I'm now going to hover over the bottom right-hand corner until my cursor goes a solid black cross. Hold down on that dot and just drag it all the way along. Let go. All the formulas are filled in. I'm just going to show you what those formulas look like. Show formula. You can see that first one there, B2 to B7, that's it all added up. And as I moved across, it's gone C2 to C7. And as I moved it across, D2 to D7. These are what's called relative references, because this one is relative to that one, is relative to that one, and so on. I've got a daft wee thing to help. I don't know if it will or not. If you think about your mum, your dad, your aunties, your uncles, they're like you, but a wee bit different. So the relative references, they're like each other, but a wee bit different. We'll cover it in a wee minute, something called an absolute reference as well, and that's slightly different. But the relative ones, they move as we drag that fill handle along. I'll turn my formulas back off, and it's all filled out. I'm now going to repeat that for the totals for each of the salespeople there. Same idea there, equals sum. Open the brackets because we need now to put the range in. I'm going to just, using my mouse, just drag along there. I'm going to close that and we're happy with that formula. And because we're happy with that formula again, I'm going to hover till my mouse is over that bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to pull it down and it's all filled in. Hashtags. Often with Excel, you get error messages, but they don't necessarily mean you've done something wrong. This one, for instance, the hashtags, if you get a bunch of hashtags in there, there's nothing wrong with that formula. All Excel's telling you is there's not enough room for it. So we can either go between the H and the I at the top there, widen it out a wee bit, there we go, all done. So sum, the nice easy formula. That's the one that's used the very most in Excel. It's just for adding up. And if I show you this formula in a minute, let's pick any of them here, this one here. That is exactly the same formula as if I'd gone equals B2 plus B3 plus B4 plus B5, how are we gonna, plus B6 plus B7. Yes, I know it's not capital, doesn't matter. That's going to give us the same answer. But we've only got 6 rows of data. If we had our even 500 rows of data, that formula would be halfway at the shops and back by the time we finished. So we use sum, and you can see that that's that range. So if you're using that, and Excel does it all for you, but it puts this colon in, and that means it's the range of B2 to B7. If I put my formulas off, do up there, you can see you've got the same answer, but don't do it the second way. It's just a mess. So I'm just going to clear that one out. All right. So hopefully that one's straightforward enough. We'll do one more on here, just how we are in the time, and then we'll have a wee break. Okay. Now then, do you remember this from school? Some of you may not. It may have been BODMAS you did at school. I'm just expanding that a minute. It may have been BOMDAS. It's actually exactly the same thing. And that's just how maths works. So basically, we do anything in brackets first. Now, operand or order. Operand means, you may remember this from first year maths a long time ago, 2 to the power of 3, 2 to the power of 4, or whatever. It's also the order, because we go order left to right. It's just the way we read. Then divide and multiply, and finally add and subtract. So this one here, 5 plus 3 times 6. Is it 48 or 23? Let's go back to BODMAS or BODMAS, whichever way you look at it. We've got multiplication here, so that gets done first. So what we're doing is we're doing the 3 times 6 first, which is 18, plus 5. So the answer is 23, not 48. We don't do 5 plus 3 times 6. If we wanted to do 5 plus 3 times 6 first, we'd simply put a bracket in. And that would then force us to do it. Now, this is the kind of the background of how maths works, and obviously Excel, Power BI, and everything is maths based and so on. But it's important that we understand that that's what we want to do. If you're not sure for any reason, stick brackets in if you want something to go first. But that is 48. That is 23. Hope that makes sense. All right, that's our next one. Statistics. Right then, a few more formula for you. Again, we've got ranges here. We've got different salespeople, and we've got the sales that they've done in different areas here. Now, what I want to do here is I want to find the minimum. But shall I zoom in a wee bit and so you can see what I'm doing a bit better? On the size of your screen you've got. So I want to find the minimum of all of these here. The formula is min. So again, starts with an equals, min, open the brackets, and then I select that range. So I want the range of that. So if I want the smallest one of them, and yes, I know there's only 6 rows of data, you can look at it and you say, oh, the smallest one is Bob at 2,900. You're never going to be working with 6 rows of data. So let Excel do the heavy lifting for you. Minimum, oh, beg your pardon, there's a smaller one there. See, I can make mistakes. Max, the highest one, equals max. Again, using that range, close the brackets, and it'll tell us the biggest one is that. Average equals, and then average. Most of the formula are fairly straightforward. Again, of that range. And count. Right, now this is a bit awkward. Well, not awkward, but there's different sorts of count. As it is, count, and this is something we're going to use quite a lot in statistics. Count doesn't care what's in here, so long as there's something. So long as these cells aren't empty, it's going to count all the cells with something in them. So equals and then counts. Drag the range down. You can see there's count text underneath. I'm going to get to that one in a minute. There we go. So we've got the minimum of that range, the maximum of that range, the average of that range, and how many there are. Now, we're going to use this fill handle again, but you don't have to use the fill handle just on one single cell. If I select all of these, I'm happy with all of this range of formulas here, so I'm going to select all 4. Bottom right-hand corner till my cursor turns black, and I'm going to drag all 4 along at once. Whole lot's done. Oh. Right then. Count text. I want to count how many names there are here. So I'm going to go, and I'm going to do it wrong to start with. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to go count again, equals COUNT, open the bracket. I'm going to drag down there. I don't know whether or not you can see up here where the formulas are, but it's in the formula bar. It's equals count J2 to J17. Close that off, 0. Formula on it might be easier to see. Count like that, just the normal COUNT count, only counts numerical values. When we go further into data and so on, and we start looking at different types and values and different data types and so on, it's really important because the different types affect how Excel or any other programming language deals with the data that we're dealing with. So with this one here, it's saying we've got none because it's looked in there and said there's no numbers whatsoever. If I want to count a row of text, instead of count, I change that to count A. And that'll give me 16. It's not just text. Count A will count anything, and we call it alphanumeric. So if it's alphanumeric, it means it's numbers, text, special characters, anything that's in there that's not empty, count A will count. And it's really important that you understand the difference between count, just for numbers, and count A for alphanumeric. Okie doke. I hope you've got with me so far. We're going to pause this video. You can have a cup of tea, and we'll start another one in a wee minute. Thank you very much.